The last thing my mother ever said to me before she disappeared was, "One day you'll understand." I was 8 years old. And I hated those words. Because understanding didn't help me when I stood on the front porch of my grandmother's house watching her car disappear down the road. Understanding didn't stop me from crying. Understanding didn't make her stay. I remember running after the car until my legs gave out. I remember screaming, "Mom, please don't leave me." But she never stopped. She never looked back. At least that's what I believed for the next 22 years. For 22 years, I told myself a simple story. My mother abandoned me because she didn't love me. And then one phone call changed everything. My name is Emily Harper. And this is the story of how I spent most of my life hating the wrong person. At first, I thought my grandmother was my hero. She took me in. Fed me. Clothed me. Raised me. Whenever I asked about my mother, Grandma would sigh heavily. Then she'd say the same thing every time. "Your mother made her choice." I learned not to ask questions. Not because I stopped caring. Because the answers always hurt. As I grew older, the stories became worse. Grandma told me my mother cared more about freedom than family. She said my mother was selfish. Irresponsible. Immature. According to Grandma, I was the burden my mother didn't want. And eventually I started believing it. Children don't just lose a parent. They lose pieces of themselves. Every school event reminded me. Every Mother's Day reminded me. Every birthday reminded me. I would watch other children run into their mother's arms. And wonder why mine never came back. By the time I reached high school, I stopped calling her mom. I started calling her that woman. It hurt less that way. Or so I thought. The anger followed me into adulthood. At 30 years old, I was successful. I had a good job as a graphic designer. A small house. A fiancé named Daniel. From the outside, my life looked complete. But inside, I still carried an 8-year-old girl's heartbreak. Then strange things started happening. Small things at first. Things I couldn't explain. The first was a birthday card. It arrived anonymously. No return address. No signature. Inside was a short message. "Happy birthday, Emily. I never stopped loving you." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I threw the card away. Because I knew who it was from. And I didn't want to think about her. 3 months later, flowers arrived at my office. Again, no name. Only a note. "Congratulations on your promotion. I'm proud of you." The handwriting looked familiar somehow. But I couldn't place it. My friend Megan noticed my expression. "Secret admirer?" I forced a laugh. "Something like that. Who do you think sent them?" I didn't answer. Because deep down, I already knew. The problem was that knowing made me angry. Not happy. If my mother cared so much, where had she been all these years? Why send flowers instead of showing up? Why send cards instead of apologies? Why watch from a distance? The questions haunted me. Then came the phone calls. Late at night. Always from blocked numbers. Whenever I answered, nobody spoke. I could hear breathing. Then silence. Then the call would end. The first few times I ignored it. After the 10th call, I couldn't. One night I finally snapped. "Stop calling me." Silence. "Who are you?" More silence. Then a woman whispered 3 words. "I miss you." The line disconnected. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. Not because I remembered it clearly. Because some voices stay buried inside your heart forever. Even when you try to forget them. That night I barely slept. For the first time in years, memories started returning. Small memories. My mother's perfume. Her laugh. The way she tucked me into bed. The way she called me Emmy. A nickname nobody else used. Not even Grandma. Especially not Grandma. The next morning I drove to my grandmother's house. I needed answers. I needed the truth. Or at least what I thought was the truth. When I arrived, Grandma looked nervous. That alone surprised me. She was never nervous. Not around me. Not around anyone. I told her about the calls. The flowers. The cards. The anonymous messages. Her face immediately tightened. Throw them away. Why? Because she's trying to manipulate you. I frowned. How do you know it's her? The question hung in the air. For a moment, Grandma looked trapped. Then she quickly recovered. Who else would it be? Maybe she was right. Maybe she wasn't. For the first time in my life, doubt appeared. Small. Dangerous. Growing. And the next discovery would make me question everything I thought I knew about my mother. The next discovery happened 2 weeks later. And it changed everything. Or at least I thought it did. I had returned to my grandmother's house to help clean the attic. She was getting older, and the stairs were becoming difficult for her. The attic was filled with decades of forgotten memories. Old furniture. Dusty photo albums. Boxes nobody had opened in years. Halfway through the cleanup, I noticed a small wooden chest pushed into the far corner. It looked different from everything else. Older. More personal. When I reached for it, Grandma's voice suddenly echoed from below. Leave that alone. I froze. Her reaction startled me. It's just a box. Some things don't need reopening. The answer felt strange. Almost defensive. And that made me want to open it even more. The moment Grandma went downstairs, I lifted the lid. Inside were dozens of letters. All addressed to me. My hands began shaking. Every envelope had my name written on it. Emily Harper. Some were old. Very old. I checked the dates. My heart nearly stopped. One letter was dated only 3 months after my mother left. Another on my 10th birthday. Another on my 16th. Another on my 21st. There were dozens. Years and years of letters. Letters I had never received. Slowly, I opened the first one. Dear Emily. Today you turn 9 years old. I hope Grandma baked your favorite chocolate cake. I wish I could see your smile. I wish I could hug you. I miss you every single day. I stopped reading. My eyes filled with tears. I opened another. And another. And another. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every graduation. Every major moment of my life. She had written. Again and again. Year after year. The woman who supposedly didn't care had spent decades writing letters to a daughter who never received them. I couldn't breathe. When Grandma came upstairs and saw the open box, her face turned pale. Emily. What is this? Her voice trembled. I can explain. Explain what? I held up a stack of letters. Why did you hide these? For the first time in my life, my grandmother looked guilty. Truly guilty. And that terrified me. Because guilty people usually have something to hide. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Tears appeared in her eyes. But she refused to answer. Instead she whispered something that made my blood run cold. Your mother should have stayed away. The anger I had carried for 22 years suddenly shifted. For the first time, it wasn't directed at my mother. It was directed at Grandma. And I hated myself for even thinking it. That night I read every letter. Every single one. Some made me cry. Some made me angry. Some confused me. But all of them had one thing in common. Love. An overwhelming amount of love. The kind of love that didn't fit the story I had believed my entire life. Then I found something else. A photograph. It showed my mother standing outside a hospital. She looked younger. Exhausted. And beside her stood a man I had never seen before. On the back was a handwritten note. One day Emily deserves the truth. The truth. That word again. Everyone seemed to have a truth. Except me. I was the only person left in the dark. The next morning I confronted Grandma again. This time I refused to leave. You lied to me. She shook her head. I protected you. From what? Silence. Grandma. Nothing. Then finally she whispered. From her mistakes. But the answer felt wrong. Incomplete. Like a puzzle missing its centerpiece. That evening another anonymous package arrived at my house. Inside was a silver bracelet. A bracelet I instantly recognized. My mother used to wear it when I was little. Attached was a note. Keep this safe. It belongs to you. No signature. No explanation. Just those words. Daniel watched me read the note. You need to talk to her. I looked up. What? You need to hear her side. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say it was too late. But deep down, I knew he was right. The next day I finally answered one of the blocked calls. And this time the voice didn't hang up. Hello? Silence. Then a shaky breath. Emily? My heart pounded. For 22 years I had imagined this moment. Now I couldn't find a single word. The woman on the other end started crying. I never thought you'd answer. I closed my eyes. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted answers. I found the letters. The crying stopped. Completely. What? The letters. A long silence followed. Then she whispered. You found them? Why did you write them? The answer came instantly. Because you're my daughter. Simple. Honest. Heartbreaking. Tears streamed down my face. But I wasn't ready to forgive her. Not yet. Because one question still remained. The question that had haunted my entire life. If you loved me. My voice broke. Why did you leave? For several seconds she said nothing. Then I heard her crying harder than before. And when she finally spoke, everything changed. Emily. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I gripped the phone. Then why? Her answer shattered every belief I had ever carried. Because if I had stayed, you might not be alive today. The room spun around me. I couldn't process what she had just said. Not because it was unbelievable. Because somehow. I knew she was telling the truth. And what she revealed next would completely rewrite my entire childhood. I sat frozen on my living room floor. The phone trembled in my hand. My mother's words echoed in my mind. If I had stayed, you might not be alive today. Nothing made sense anymore. For 22 years, I had believed one story. One simple, painful story. My mother abandoned me because she didn't love me. Now she was telling me the exact opposite. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to hear everything. Tell me. Her breathing shook on the other end of the line. Then she began telling the story that nobody else ever had. The story that changed my life. When you were 8 years old, your father became dangerous. I frowned. My father died before I was born. That's what Grandma told you. My heart nearly stopped. What? The room felt smaller. Colder. Suddenly every memory seemed uncertain. Every truth felt fragile. My mother continued. He wasn't dead, Emily. I couldn't speak. He was violent. The words hit me like a punch. He became obsessed with controlling us. I closed my eyes, trying to process it, trying to understand. He threatened me constantly. Her voice cracked. And eventually he started threatening you. Tears filled my eyes. No. I wish I were lying. She wasn't. I could hear it. The pain in her voice was too real. Too deep. Too old. He told me if I ever tried to leave him, he'd take you away. I covered my mouth. The same way I had imagined my younger self doing so many times. The same way people do when reality becomes unbearable. My mother kept talking. Each sentence felt like another piece of a shattered puzzle finally fitting together. For years I stayed because I was afraid. Afraid of him? Afraid of what he would do. Then she said something I'll never forget. Sometimes staying isn't bravery. Sometimes leaving is. I started crying. Because I suddenly realized I knew nothing about the woman I hated. Nothing. She explained that when I was 8, things became worse. Much worse. My father's threats escalated. The police became involved. Protective orders were filed. Lawyers entered the picture. There were court hearings. Investigations. Danger. Real danger. Then came the worst part. One night my father threatened to take me permanently. And disappear. My mother knew she couldn't protect me alone anymore. So she made an impossible choice. The hardest choice of her life. She asked my grandmother to take me temporarily. Just until the legal battle ended. Just until we were safe. Just until she could come back. But that isn't what happened. Because my grandmother had her own plan. I sat in silence as my mother explained everything. Grandma never approved of her marriage. Never approved of her decisions. Never approved of her life. When the custody battle began, Grandma became convinced she could raise me better. Safer. More responsibly. And somewhere along the way, temporary became permanent. The letters disappeared. The phone calls stopped reaching me. The gifts vanished. Every attempt my mother made to reconnect somehow failed. Or was blocked. Or never reached me. I thought my mother disappeared. Meanwhile, my mother thought I hated her. The realization broke me. 2 lives destroyed by a misunderstanding that lasted decades. The next day I drove straight to my grandmother's house. I needed answers. Not excuses. Answers. When she opened the door, she immediately knew. She saw it in my face. She saw the truth. And she knew the truth had finally found me. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where she taught me how to bake cookies. The same table where she helped with homework. The same table where she comforted me after heartbreak. And for the first time, I saw not a hero. Not a villain. Just a flawed human being. A person capable of love and mistakes. Both at the same time. Did you know? I asked quietly. She lowered her eyes. That was answer enough. Tears immediately filled my eyes. You knew. Her shoulders collapsed. Yes. The word felt like a knife. Not because she admitted it. Because she looked devastated while doing it. For several minutes neither of us spoke. Then she finally whispered. I thought I was protecting you. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was. But another part saw something else. Regret. Years and years of regret. I was afraid she'd take you away. I stared at her. She was my mother. I know. The words came out broken. I know that now. I realized something important in that moment. People don't always hurt others because they're evil. Sometimes they hurt others because they're scared. And fear can be just as destructive. 3 days later, I met my mother. For real. Not through memories. Not through letters. Not through old photographs. Face to face. 22 years after she drove away. I stood outside a small coffee shop. My hands shaking. My heart racing. Wondering what I would say. Wondering if I'd recognize her. Then a woman stepped out of a silver sedan. And instantly, I knew. Not because she looked exactly the same. Because she smiled exactly the same. The smile from my earliest memories. The smile I'd spent years trying to forget. She looked at me. Then stopped moving. As if she couldn't believe I was real. As if she feared I might disappear. The same fear I'd carried for 22 years. And suddenly neither of us could stop crying. She walked toward me slowly. I've missed you every day. That was the first thing she said. Not an excuse. Not a defense. Not a justification. Just the truth. 22 years of truth. And somehow that made it even harder to hear. Because I believed her. I finally believed her. The woman I thought abandoned me. Never stopped loving me. Not for a single day. We talked for hours. Then days. Then weeks. We looked through old photos. Read old letters. Shared lost memories. Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we cried. Sometimes we did both at the same time. Healing isn't a single moment. It's thousands of small moments. And we were finally getting ours. 6 months later, my mother attended my wedding. When she walked into the venue, guests assumed she'd always been part of my life. They didn't see the missing years. They only saw the love. And for the first time, that was enough. When it came time for speeches, I stood in front of everyone and shared something I had learned. Something I wish I had known as a child. I looked directly at my mother. Then at my grandmother. And said, sometimes the people who hurt us are carrying wounds of their own. Understanding doesn't erase the pain, but it can change what we do with it. The room fell silent. Tears filled both their eyes. Mine too. Today, my relationship with my mother isn't perfect. No relationship is. But it's real. It's honest. It's ours. And my grandmother? I forgave her. Not because what she did was right. Because carrying anger for another 20 years wouldn't heal anything. Forgiveness gave me something anger never could. Peace. For most of my life, I thought my mother abandoned me because she didn't love me. The truth was far more heartbreaking. She left because she loved me enough to sacrifice everything. Even her own place in my life. And that's the lesson I'll carry forever. The truth isn't always hidden by lies. Sometimes it's hidden by pain. And when we finally find it, it has the power to change everything.